Angel of light, come into me. Show me what I need to see.
Welcome to the Small Victories podcast. I'm your host, Pauline Victoria, an inspirational thought leader that offers transformational perspectives based on my unique experiences as a woman born without arms and legs. I feel like my life has been full of small victories that has led me to discover the greatness within. I believe that there is no summit upon which we reach our greatness. I believe it is a culmination of small victories achieved moment by moment when we turn toward the inward battle where we get to choose despair or hope, misery or miracles, defeat or victory. My goal is to awaken your potential, your purpose, and your power so that you can discover the greatness that lives within you. Think of this podcast as your weekly portion of tools, stories, and teachings that help you reflect on the small victories in your life. Thanks for tuning in, and let's begin. Welcome to another episode of the Small Victories podcast. I'm your host, Pauline Victoria. What if the biggest obstacle between you and your next breakthrough is you? On today's episode, I'm talking with Jessica Danel, author of Bucket List from a Redneck Girl and host of the Unapologetically Real Jess Saying podcast. Jessica is no stranger to starting over from small town roots to $1 million business owner, from success to sacrifice and back again. Her story is raw, relatable, and packed with full truths about resilience, motherhood, marriage, and the messy magic of reinvention. If you've ever felt stuck in your story or wondered if you could really begin again, this episode is your sign that not only can you start over, but you might come back stronger, wiser, and more aligned than ever. Jess, thanks for coming on the show.
I am so excited to be here.
I am so excited too. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you're just tuning in right now, but we already had a party before we started hitting record because she is so fun. It's like, this is one of the most exciting guests I was looking forward to having and sharing with you all. So thank you, Jess, from the bottom of my heart. And I'm calling you Jess. I'm sorry. Do you like?
Dude, I'm all for it. Like legit. And besides,
Okay.
I swear, if I lived where you live, if we were like living close, I couldn't afford where you live, by the way. But if I could, and I could live there, I swear we'd be besties because I think we vibe like 100%. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. Yeah.
Just
So,
saying.
a shameless plug. I was on her podcast, Just Saying. So I just stay tuned for that coming up. Actually, it's already going to have been aired. So look at my post to see my podcast episode on her podcast.
3.
Yes, coming out December 2025. So this is airing in 2026, but the recording that we're doing there right now is 2025. So go back, listen to the episode I did with Jess on her podcast. One of the things we established is she likes to cook and I like to eat. So you know what? I think that's like a marriage made in heaven.
You see these cheeks? This isn't Botox. It's natural. Just saying.
I know. I went to a graduation party for a friend's daughter and we went to college together, the friend and I. And they're like, you look exactly the same. I'm like, yep, it's called It's called Just Stay.
Natural Botox. Natural.
Yes.
Natural.
No needles on
Natural.
this face.
Not yet. I mean, I always say like, oh, I haven't had anything done yet. And I'm thinking like, but back in my mind, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying like, I don't know. If I have to. Yeah. I mean, I want to lose some weight and then get a mommy makeover and then shed all that. But I'm getting old and pretty soon it's going to be like a granny makeover. I don't know. By the time I lose the weight, I'll be like in a hover round or a wheelchair. Like, come on, let's go do it.
All right.
This is what I'm saying. Like, you know what it is when I talk to you, I don't see you sitting in a chair. You know, I just see you. And so I'll say things that I'm like probably are inappropriate. So unfortunately, that's just my personality. You know what I'm saying? So anywho, but
I love it.
I adore you, by the way. I mean, you're just a sweet person. And also, by the by, if you listen to the episode on Jess Saying, it was one of my first, so I'm probably really not that good. So just keep listening and keep listening to some of my other podcasts because now I'm already into like episode 60 and I'm getting better. But that was kind of raw. I was like a baby bird. But you were so sweet to me. And I mean, you were such a great guest too. And I mean, it was great. So it's one of my favorites actually of all time. so far.
Thank you. One of the things that we have in common, and I love that you're just who you are unapologetically. I wish more people would be that way. And I think one of the things that we have in common besides that is this idea of resilience, of us being able to start again. Like, you're new to the podcasting world and you're going full force, momentum is going. And sometimes when you like start, like you get things going and then suddenly it feels like it's running and you're having to chase after it now. But it's not the first time that you've had to reinvent yourself. And so one of the reasons I wanted to interview you when you pitched me was because of the name of your book, Bucket List from a Redneck Girl. I'm like, who says that? And I'm like, I need to know this person. So I'd love to start there because I know that there could be a lot of people out there listening to this right now who are in a stage of their life where it feels like everything is changing and transitioning. And it's scared to change because you're moving into a place of uncertainty and you don't know exactly how it's going to look or if you can even redo everything or make anything different and better. What would that look like? So we can learn a lot from other people's stories. So I'd love to hear what this redneck girl has to say about starting over.
Okay, so this is my book. This is what it looks like.
Nice.
So it has all my pictures and stuff growing up, and I'll read just the first line from the back summary. It says, Marcia, if you understood what that means, then you'll appreciate this book. Because I was the middle child, I guess you would say. I had two sisters and a brother, and I was the middle girl. And my brother, of course, could do no wrong. And we were raised in a small Northern California town, about an hour, 45 minutes north of Sacramento. But the town was like a farming town and everybody knew everybody. And we were considered like the lower class of the area. There was Olive First and Linda, which is where I was, and then Marysville, Yuba City. And Marysville, Yuba City, that's where you told people you lived. You said, I live in Marysville, right by Yuba City, because nobody would understand where Linda was. We had an Air Force base, like right down the main street of where I lived. But nobody really talked about where I lived, and it's a forgotten kind of area. Anyways, the whole book is about resilience, really. And that is what a strong-willed child like myself, that's what happens when you take the beatings, literally. I actually have a chapter in the book called The Belt, the Hand, or the Hanger, because that is what my dad would ask how I'd want it when I got punished. And so there's a chapter about that. If you're a Gen Xer, a lot of people were punished that way in the 80s, 70s and 80s. So that might not be much difference than how other people, but it's how you get back up in life. And when you're a child, it's how you stand after the beating, whether you're literally getting beaten or something just brought you all the way down. You have to stand back up and keep going. You got to keep climbing. So actually my book opens up with first chapter, and I was placed in a drug rehab by my parents. And I've never done drugs. Even to this day, I've never done drugs. So they dropped me in a drug rehab for 4 days. And I talk about that experience. And that chapter is called Never Believed, because that literally is the case in my life. With my family, I talk about going to private school and public school. Then the nuns used to smack me around. I talk about a lot of stories in there. How I got my first kiss under the stairs at the Catholic school, peer pressure. And I kissed him like they did on Blue Lagoon, because my mom and dad, we were never allowed to watch naughty movies. And so my parents would turn off all the lights and I would hang down the hall and I would watch the whole movie. I wasn't supposed to. I'll talk about that too. But I'd kiss the little boy, but I was little. I kissed him like you did on Blue Lagoon. He was all grossed out. So we didn't last very long. I think we last half a recess or something. I don't know. But I talk about it in the book. Yeah, the book is funny. You'll laugh. And you'll cry for me, and you'll cry for the things that I say. I went to a great high school. We were all best friends. I talk about the Park Circle area where I lived. We called it Park Circle. We were all friends and everything, and had a great high school experience. And I talk about how we had a high school shooting, one of the first in America. And so it was May 1st, 1992. The Rodney King verdicts had come out on the 29th of April. And then the riots ensued. And then the next day still had a lot of riots. And then the next day, Monday, we had a school shooting. One of our students, when we all knew him. He came back to the school 2 years after he graduated. Well, he didn't graduate. That's the problem. He didn't graduate. He didn't pass civics, which is like sometimes happens with a lot of students in our school. If they don't pass civics, you don't get to graduate. Well, he thinks that was the whole downfall of his life, because he didn't pass high school and get a diploma, that his whole life is a mess or whatever. So he came in Army gear and with shotguns and handguns and went to the school, and he shot for one teacher and 3 of my friends, killed them, shot 9 others, and then held, I think, 80 hostages for about 12 hours in the school. And it was like our school never really recovered. Our town never really recovered after that. We still now talk about it. We cry about it. They made a movie about it with Ricky Schroeder. He was in Silver Spoons, and Freddie Prinze Jr. and Henry Winkler. He was that principal on Scream movie, and also he played Fonzie on Happy Days. So those are pretty big names for the movie. It was called something Rage. Dang it. Siege at Johnson High was a name, and there's also another name that's equated with it. You can watch it on Prime, Amazon Prime, but look it up. It's the Lyndhurst High School shooting, 1992. It'll tell you all about it. So I write about that in the book, and where I was when it happened, and my sister was there, and all the things that were going on, and about the heroes that were one of the kids killed was a hero. He jumped in. This girl had the shotgun in her face, and he pushed the girl out of the way, and he said, "No." He pushed her, and he took the blunt of the bullet to the head and laid on the ground dying in front of all of his friends. He was a hero, and my mom was sitting with his mom when she got the news. She was holding the mom's hand, and they came and told her. So my mom was there actually at that moment. So I write about all of that. Also, I write about something less dark, but I talk about how you have like that after school special where they're like, "I'm going to kick your butt at 3:00 after school." I had one of those. Some girl wanted to beat me up, and it was this big thing in my school, big thing. And I write about that, and I kicked her butt, by the way, but it's not really a spoiler, but the chapter's called "I Just Had to Do It," because she forced me into it. I told her I was so sorry, I'm so sorry, and then she wanted to fight still. But it's actually my favorite chapter because it's the funniest one. And so I say that you have to read that chapter. It's freaking awesome. Okay. And then I have a story. It was almost like a miracle that happened to me. So I call it my God story. I don't know how to explain it. I don't want to give it away, but I get lost very easily, even now. My husband, I get lost, and I also don't know time zones and different things. So like when my husband and I, one time we went to Spain. No, we went to Italy on a cruise. And we were in Spain at the airport. I messed up the time, and we were 12 hours. We had to wait, sleeping on the floor for 12 hours at the airport because I couldn't get the time right. So I'm not smart when it comes to like traveling and like directions. I'm really bad. You tell me where east is, and I'm like, well, is it that way, that way, that way? I don't even know. Even now, like if I don't know where north is. Like, is that up? I don't really know.
Jess, I'm gonna make you feel better. I got lost in a parking lot, and I called my husband, and I told him I don't know how to get out of here.
Yeah, like I literally don't know. Like I forget where I parked too. I'm the same way. I'm like I have to click the panic button on my car. Ding ding ding. And I'm like, okay, where am I? I'm the annoying one that does that in the parking lot. My friend and I, we went to Utah when we weren't supposed to. I was still 17, and I had just graduated high school. But anyways, we take off. We go to Utah, and on the way home, I went the wrong way. We ended up in Idaho, and we had no money, no way to get back. And how we got back was almost a miracle. I don't know how to explain it, but you got to read the book. It is very all true, 100%. And then there's all these little intertwined stories that I tell throughout all the things that I'm telling you. There's all these sub stories that are important, like our babysitter robbed us. There's just all these weird things that have happened to us in my life. Also, I was hit by a drunk driver, and my car like exploded in a mushroom, like a huge boom with helicopters. Everybody, it was just a crazy scene. And I got out with just this guy scoops me up as if like walking across the threshold and carries me across. I was very light back then, but he scoops me up and he carries me across the street. As soon as he set me down, we both turned our head and boom, and we all went like this backwards because my car exploded. Like I barely got out just before it was crazy. But I tell the story in detail, and it's a very interesting story. And it happened to me, that's about when I was starting to make bad choices in my life. And one, because we were on our way to a nightclub. So it was kind of like all these bad choices that I were making. And I talk about like how adulting was very difficult. And I would constantly fall. Like from grace. I'd constantly fall and do bad things, or I'd fall down and a car exploded. I didn't have a car. Silly something was always happening to me that wasn't great. You know what I mean? One of my chapters early in the book is called The Popeye Girl because kids would call me Popeye because I had a lazy eye that I had 2 eye surgeries for. So I call it The Popeye Girl because I'm leaning into it a little bit. I was like, yeah, whatever. I guess that's me. Whatever he says, like, give me some spinach. I don't know. That was like my favorite cartoon. So it was a bummer that they were calling me that because I was like, I like the Popeye. So I constantly had to overcome a lot of different things, even young. And then I got to be an adult. And in high school, my parents put me in a drug rehab. I had to bounce back from that. They stripped me from the ability to have basketball, which was like really hard on me. At a time when kids are supposed to go into sports to stay out of trouble, my parents were taking it away. And so then in high school, I had a lot of barriers and I still had to get back up. And then I started adulting as a 19, 18-year-old, and I was falling down a lot and just getting myself back up. I would lose my roommate a couple times. I ended up back at my mom and dad's house, and they put me in the garage amongst the oil pans and all that in a tent. It was terrible. And I just kept going, made it my home. I had a TV and comfy stuff to sleep in, and I was all good. You got to look at the bright side. You can't always be like, oh my God, my life's a mess. I just want to die. No, you got to take what you got and go, it could be worse. And then you just got to keep trying to build and grow and keep moving on. And that's what I did. I met somebody. He was terrible to me, was physically abusive, and I got out. I talk about that situation. And the day, I swear this is true. So I called the police on him because he wouldn't let me leave. I was trying to leave him. And so the police come and they were like, we have to arrest him. Let us arrest him. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not that kind of girl. And the guy was so hot. He goes, I noticed you're going to be 21 in 2 days. He goes, would you like to bring in your birthday with me and a couple of the guys from the station? And so I'm like, I'll take a date with this hot, super hot, let me say, like probably the hottest guy I've ever dated. I was like, yes, please. And so I did. And I talk about that and how I almost got a DUI on the way home. It's crazy, but he saved me. I swear. It's a crazy story. It's so true. I get out of so many things. I swear, I think I have a guardian angel. I really, really do. And I talk about that, how God protected me from this. He showed me this. He made me go through this. He was training me when I was younger. And I fell down a lot for a reason, because it's leading me to where I am here today. And I truly believe that. Like, you go through what you go through because there's a reason for it. And we might not know it in the moment. And we're always asking him, like, why are you making me go through all this BS stuff? And there's always a reason, and we don't know what it is and sometimes he'll show you why later on down the road, but sometimes you never know why. And it just is what it is. But I digress a little bit. But so I talk about being arm candy to that guy that he had lots of money, lots and lots and lots of money. He bought me a $40,000 wedding ring. And I know it was like the biggest diamond I've ever seen.
What made you say no?
I didn't love him. Well, I actually said yes. But then I thought to myself, we can be engaged, because we had dated for 7 months. And I go, we can be engaged. And then, because I had just moved in with them. And I'm like, we can be engaged. And then if I don't end up really loving him, then I can just break it off. And so that's what I thought in my mind. I did give him back the ring eventually. But he did try. Okay, I talk about this in the book. It's so interesting. But he broke into my apartment and he put a listening device between my stacked jeans, tried to see if I was with another person, like right after we broke up. And then he literally broke down my front door. And then I would talk about that, and his dad gets arrested. It's a story. It's kind of a really crazy drama BS. And it's embarrassing how my life was just so up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Like I said, when you're all the way down, you just keep trying to go back up. And once you get up again, and I couldn't keep myself up, I just would slide back down again. I was like, you know what I mean? It was like I couldn't wear those skates. They just, you know how when you wear, sorry, don't get mad at me. But when you're wearing skates, okay, people.
No, it's great.
And then they fall to the ground. That's me, like all the time. That's me growing up and trying to be an adult and trying to make decisions. And then I talk about something very serious that I don't really want to go into too much here, but there's a chapter in my book. It's called Pretend You're Asleep. And so it's about something like that happened to me. And I tell my story because it's my story. It's not the story of my siblings, but I always say they have their own experiences, but this is what's going on with me. And so then the beginning of the rest of my life is the next chapter. And that is where I met my husband. We met 28 years ago. We're still married today, 25 years married. But my wedding, okay. Oh, yeah. And by the way, he has a daughter. She was 3 when we met. The mother, they were never married, but they dated. I call her bio mom in the book because she is like cuckoo. Okay. And so if you have anybody out there that are stepmoms that had to deal with the crazy mothers, I'll tell you, man, I was in labor when they were in court and she wouldn't allow a postponement. And I'm sitting there in labor in court 2 hours away from our house. And it was actually 4 hours because the traffic between Long Beach and Palm Springs is like insane. Anybody live there? So I talk about that. So my wedding was I called it the Jerry Springer wedding because my family couldn't get beside themselves to give me a day of pleasure and fun. And there was a lot of, I'm going to kill myself kind of things being called across the phones. There was my brother opening up a wedding ring saying, I'm going to ask my girlfriend to marry me at my wedding. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that happened, and I'll leave that in that chapter. But I go on and I say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I truly believe that. And we moved to Bakersfield, middle of California, and I started a business from my living room. Was a daycare. And we were getting so many people that we decided to build onto the home. And I built about a 700 square foot room. And I hired 2 more staff members, and we had about a rotation of like 20 kids. We only had allowed to have 14, but I had some coming and going all day. And so then I was just word of mouth. Nobody could get into my school because I was just so busy that I decided to buy one at a church. I bought this location at the church. I built it up from nothing, made it into it had like 40, 48 kids or something. I had 8 staff members. I had both locations working for me, doing very well. And then I got approached by my neighbor and said, I'm going to have a commercial property and I'm going to build a 10,000 square foot building shell. It'll be about $4.2 million. You have to come up with about whatever the inside would cost to fix, and also your own toys and your own stuff and your business stuff. I didn't have a degree or anything. I went online and I figured out how to do a business plan using Google. And I procured a loan for $700,000 from SBA, Small Business Association. And that paid for the inside of everything on the inside, the play yard, and about $100,000 worth of toys for the school. My school was the largest one, is still the largest one in this town. Now, I was doing really good before, but when we started on day one, I had pre-sold the business. And we had 140 kids on day one. Like wow. You open the door and 140 kids spilled in. Yeah, it was crazy. I had a staff of 28. Yep. And I had vendors and I had cleaning crews. I had a cook. I had the whole thing. And we were doing so good the first year. And this coming up to the second year, built it up to $1 million. And I got pregnant. Now it would be worth more now because prices for daycare are freaking through the roof. Twice as much as what I was charging. Back in 2008 is when we opened. And then my daughter was born in 2010 with health problems, severe health problems. She needed open heart surgery. And again, I felt being pulled down again. At that time too, this is so terrible. I can't believe I'm going to say it, but it's terrible. Okay, so I had a news crew came to my door. And I've been interviewed by the news before because my school was such a big thing for our town. It was like a big thing. We did the open house with the mayor and a bunch of the senator came and just a bunch of stuff. It was like a big thing. And I thought, oh, they're going to do another story on me. And I'm like, cool, I could use the publicity. Come on into my office. So they come into my office and they sit down. And then she shows me some pictures that I had put, and I didn't post them. Like at that time, it was MySpace was the place that you would go to. And I didn't post them, but I had an account called Photo Bucket. I don't even know if you ever heard of it. Mm-hmm. And it's where you go and create memes so that you could post them somewhere or you could whatever you wanted to do with them. But I guess I didn't have that thing put to private. And so people could go into see my photos of my families or whatever I had in there, whatever. Because like you would put a montage of your family photos together and then you would post them. I took a meme of a kid. This is terrible. But I took a meme of a kid. It was naked. This little boy was naked, looked just like my son. Blonde hair, just like my son. And he had his mom's maxi pads all over his body. Like not an inch of skin was showing. Not anywhere on his body. He just had maxi pads everywhere, on his face, everywhere. And underneath I put, now that's a creative kid. That's what I said. Because Creative Kids was the name of my preschool. And so the play on the creative kids, she goes, do you think that's funny? The news lady said. And I said, yeah, I do. I thought it was funny because at the time I still think it's funny because that's the kind of personality I am. I didn't look at it as anything. So I was reading the room and she did not laughing. So I knew that this was not going to go the way. And then also there was another one that was so much more terrible than that. I'm a big girl. I take it with a grain of salt. But there was 3 obese ladies. Oh my God, this is so terrible. I can't believe I'm going to say this because it's going to turn off everybody. But I said, I bet they make love under pressure. Now because I think it's funny. It's a funny joke. You would think you'd see it now and you'd probably laugh or, that's not funny and you'd whatever. But I had it on my page. I didn't put it anywhere. It was just something that I saw. And I don't even think I created that. I think it was there and I kept it in my bucket of stuff. And so she goes, do you think that's funny, being obese and then having that being said about you? And I'm like, I go, you know what? This interview's over. And I said, you don't have my permission to use my likeness on camera, but you can go. And I escorted him out. But this is just right after I gave birth. My daughter was struggling to live because she had a heart problem that she could die any minute. I probably had postpartum. Who knows? I was just crying all the time. And I was injecting money into my school because at this time, the economy, starting in 2008, the economy just started taking a big crapper. Parents were losing their jobs. The highest, I think I had 188 families, and because I had the capacity of 208, but at the time I had 188 families and we dropped to 88 families. And so I was trying to keep my teachers working. I was trying not to let anybody go because I didn't want to also contribute to the bad economy, you know what I mean? And so I was injecting a lot of money. This thing happened. I was probably postpartum and my daughter needed me. And I just decided that my landlord had asked me to buy the business and he kept asking me. So I'm like, okay, I'll sell it to you. He didn't pay me what he owed me. So I ended up having to go into arbitration with him, and his attorney was his brother. And they were laughing how they were going to keep me there for months and drain me of my money and then I would be basically paying into this whole thing instead of making money on it. So I ended up just letting it go. This whole $1 million business that I almost gave up to this guy. And so that was probably my lowest low. And I think one of my teachers is the one that they know me probably one of my friends on my photo bucket and then told the news about me. And that hurt too, because I wasn't a celebrity. Not like anybody would know me. It was somebody in my school that knew me. And it was a teacher that I think that did that. I was being cancel cultured before it was really a thing. You know what I mean? So the news with that night, the news came on at 5:00. And the next morning I had a few parents give me the side eye, but nobody withdrew. It wasn't like it was a big thing, but I was like, I know, I feel terrible. There was a terrible thing for me to do. But everybody knows my personality, so I think they just brushed it off. But me internally, it broke me. And I just felt really low. And then I was like, what's next? What do you do after you've been to the highest highs and you lose it all? And now your daughter's being ripped from your arms as they take her to surgery. It was hard to go through. I talk about my daughter's surgery in the book. It's a lot of stuff happened within her surgery and everything. So it's a touching story. You just won't believe all the things that happened. It's an incredible part of the story, I think. But then I talk about how life goes on. And my husband's like, what do you want to do? You going to go to school? Or you going to go to work? And I was thinking, I don't have an education. All I did was preschool my whole life. I don't know anything else. And so I was like, I'll go back to school. And I did. And within 4 years, I got a bachelor's degree in marketing, business administration and marketing. And then I talk about how this sounds a little hokey, but I kind of believe that God leaves you breadcrumbs. And that's why this chapter is called Finding the Crumbs, because I feel like he leaves things in your path and you just have to open up. You know that commercial where they said $11,000 for your master's degree and then he runs across and the girl goes, $11 for your coffee. 11 this, and he hears the word 11 all day long. And it's like these little breadcrumbs telling him to go get his master's degree. And that is kind of what happened to me. And so I told my husband, I go, God's telling me to get my master's degree. Can I go do it? He's like, whatever is your path and your journey. I'm all for it. I was like, all right. So I did. I went and got my master's degree during COVID and then I just kept going. I landed a job in broadcast media, and then I got another job in broadcast media. So I have 2 8-hour jobs at the same time. One is in TV and one is in radio, but they are in totally different. Actually, they don't even have any of the similar advertisers. So they're totally in different parts of the world, and they don't really overlap, but they do during the day, hours in the day. And then I sat here and I had some downtime. Even with the 2 jobs, I had downtime. I was like, well, I don't like, me. If you read the book, you'll see I had 2 jobs my whole freaking life, a whole life. I was a cocktail server and a preschool teacher my whole life. It's crazy. And so I just decided I was going to write a book about my crazy life. All the things I was telling you about, I put them in a book. And there's a lot more that I have not even mentioned that are in the book that are interesting stories that you cannot believe happened, but is absolutely 100% true. And so I wrote a book, and then I decided, well, what am I going to do next? How am I going to get my book out there? I'm going to do a podcast. So I started a podcast, and I learned everything there is to know before I started, like what to buy and how to set up the equipment. And so it took some time to like save money for the equipment. And then I would set it up, and I'd slowly sit here and try to just finagle before I finally got started on my first episode. And then my first episode is I just talked to everybody about myself. Okay, this is me. Maybe you'll like these episodes that I'm about to air. Maybe you won't. I mean, if you don't like my personality, you definitely will not like my podcast, because this is me in a nutshell. This is how I talk. This is exactly what happens on the show. And so now, what's next? And I know I'm monopolizing this whole thing, and you haven't had a chance to ask the question, but what is next is I'm writing a book, a romance novel, very steamy. It's 49 Shades of Gray, and it'll make you want to lock the door. And it's about an ER nurse and a fire chief, really hot and steamy fire chief. And it's a great love story, but then there's also some thriller elements into it. And so it's a mashup or a hybrid romance novel with a little bit of thriller. And then I'm carrying the novel into the second novel. And so it's going to be like a 3 or 4 part series. And so then after that, I'm going to see where I go next.
That's awesome. I hope you do an audiobook, because that's how I read now. And actually, they're showing statistics on reading going down and audio kind of being the thing.
So my bucket list from a Redneck Girl is on audio. Well, no, it's not on audio, but I just finished with the audio person. My publisher didn't allow me to speak the audio, which you would think they would, because the inflection you would get would totally be my voice. But she did do a good job and did use the right inflection on some of it, because you can see how I am animated, so I write the same way I talk. But she did a great job, and so we're finishing up on that. So there will be an audio for my book, and then my next book, the romance novel, maybe I guess you can do an audio for your romance novels. I think I will, because like you said, audio is the way to go, because people are not lazy, but they listen on the go. And if you're taking a trip, or this is just how people are doing it nowadays. You know what I'm saying?
It is. I want to respond to 2 things that I just noted while you were sharing your whole story up to this point. And I can't wait.
I vomited my whole story.
No, not at all. I can't wait to see the rest of your life unfold. But 2 things, because we started this conversation about resilience and how do we start over again? How do we get back up? You talk about falling down, literally falling down from grace, falling down in life. And it happens. In adulting, my husband and I were just having a conversation. He's like, adulting sucks. And I'm like, yes. I know. Kids, if you're out there, just don't rush to get older. It's fine. Just enjoy the ride for what you have now, even with limitations. I'd rather have limitations than have to do all the responsibilities. But one thing that I think adds to resilience is being unapologetically authentic. I really do feel like that is a gift that you have. It's because you are super authentic in who you are and you embrace it. You don't try to deny who you are. And you say it all the time. This is just who I am. This is my personality. And by being that way, every time we get up, we're not trying to figure out, okay, well, that didn't work. Now who do I have to be? Like you're just constantly like, well, no, this is me. And if you stay centered in who you are and you've practiced being authentic, because I do believe it's a practice, just like wearing a mask is a practice that people can have. It is just easier to come back home to yourself every time you have to get back up.
Reinventing yourself doesn't mean, like you said, changing your personality or changing the way you dress, or it could mean if that makes you feel better inside. But resilience and reinvention, I hear a lot of people saying, oh, how they reinvented they came back and reinvent. But you have to, like you said, you have to stay true to yourself, and it's not going to work if you're not authentically yourself, because you can't fake it for too long, because something's like someone who lies a lot. Someone who's lying they'll tell you so many stories about the same thing, different stories, because they can't keep the lie straight. And so that is what happens if you can't stay true to yourself. The lie just becomes then you understand, you don't know who you are anymore, because you're like, you told this story so many different ways and you reinvented yourself so many different times. You just have to remember that, I don't know how to explain it, but you always have to look on the bright side and have goals. Like my marriage, we've been together a long time and we have the goals. We work on what we're going to do in the future. We've had all these different goals and we've surpassed them all. And it's like my book, Bucket List. I'll have a lot of goals or bucket list items that I want to attain, to get. And you just have to keep working to the next one. So if I fell down with my preschool, what did I do? I went back to school and decided that if an education might be the right way to go, because personally, I didn't feel smart. At that time, too, my son, was homeschooling him, and that show, I'm Not Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, that was like me. And so when I realized that my son's math skills were better than mine at his fifth grade level, I'm like, I put him back in school. And then I went to school. And I did that because I didn't want to feel that way. I didn't want to feel stupid. Even though now, if you told me how to do the math, I'd be like, go ask my son, because he's so smart when it comes to stuff like that. I'm really bad at directions. I'm bad at math. Okay. And I'm just bad at like time zones. So those are all my downfalls. But if you fall down, you got to know who you are, and you just have to have a goal in sight, and you say, what do I have to do to get there? I didn't know how to do a business plan, get a loan, but I took all the little baby steps that it took to get me there, and I made it come true. And I think Domination by Determination is a chapter in my book. And I talk about this a little bit, about how you just got to do what you put your mind to and follow through with every little step and make an action plan. And sometimes, even if a smallest little business adventure, you may not think needs a business plan, but if you think your business all the way through from beginning to end, a lot of times it's a lot easier to make those dreams come true if you put it down on paper.
Yeah. I know someone famous said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's it. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I just feel like at the end of anything that you're going through, whether it's in the falling down or in the rising up and in the celebrations, all you have is yourself. It's you that's meeting you there. So really taking time to increase your self-awareness, love yourself, especially in this cancel culture. You experienced it before. It was a thing, this cancel culture. The thing is, we're not responsible for everybody's feelings. And so I love you being you, because, and you're like, gosh, I just put my foot in my mouth, or I don't be offended, or don't be upset. But you know what? At the end of the day, no one's responsible for my feelings except for me, because people can say anything they want, and I can either choose to give my power to them or not. And I think that is also part of resilience, because as we are in the falling, people could be pointing and laughing. People could be encouraging you, but people could also be very cruel and see, I told you so. So it really is important to your resilience to know who you are and be grounded in that. And don't apologize for that. Do what's authentic to you. And I believe this thing, like you mentioned angels and your guardian angel and God before, and I'm a believer. And I don't believe that there's this God that like tests us, but I do think that when we have such a bright light, the enemy is going to try to come in and try to dim that light through adversity. But what was made for evil can be used for good. And it really is up to us to choose a perspective. Like you said, Jess, you got to look on the bright side, but that's a choice. That's not what happens to you. Looking on the bright side, you're not at the effect of it. You have to choose that actively. And so I just wanted to bring those thoughts up, because I know you're just telling your story, but there's gold in your story, which is why you probably put it in a book and now we're doing a podcast.
I think I say this a lot. God wants you to talk about them. And if you have stories of miracles or things that have happened to you and you think that they're attributed to God, he wants you to talk about them. And that's why I put them in the book. And that is why I want people to read it. It's also a funny book. It'll make you cry. It's an easy read. It's one of those books you could take on the airplane and probably finish it on the way there and then on the way back. It's like something that you'll actually enjoy. And I hope that if you do like it, anybody that reads it tells a friend, and that friend will read it too, because I think that it's just an important story, I think. And not that I'm an important person, but the little things like you said, there's like little nuggets throughout the whole book that are important to know and see and hear. And somebody else's story, you might think your life is bad, but damn it, reading my book, you might be, damn, she went through a lot. Also, something you said is what my husband always says to me when we're in a fight, but it's so true. But he says, nobody can upset you unless you let them. And so, like you said, you can either choose to accept the words that they're saying or just be like we used to say in the day, talk to the hand. I do this all the time, but I just forget.
Love it. I love it. Talk to the hand. It's all in the head.
All
right. Are there any last thoughts that you'd like to leave with our listener before I let you go, Jess?
If you feel like you have a story, I always say I wear my personality on my sleeve, but I carry my stories in my back pocket. And if you have stories that are sitting in your back pocket that you tell your friends and they tell you, gosh, you put that in a book. You got so much going on. You've had a life full of stuff. Even if you think you're not a great writer, get it on paper. And there's things out there that can help you write better. After you get your thoughts down, I didn't do this because at the time I wrote my book, ChatGPT really wasn't a thing, or people weren't really knowing what it was. But you can go in there and put your words in there and make them better. Grammarly helps. There's a lot of things out there that'll help you. So if you have a unique story, I think everybody's story needs to be told. And I think put it on paper. It's something your kids will have forever. They'll read excerpts from my book on my deathbed and go, that's funny. And we're going to say this because she said this. And this is something she said. And this is so funny. And then also my podcast, my voice is out there with my opinions and everybody's going to see me forever. And I encourage people to do those things and put it on paper and read my book. I have a website people can go to. It'sjesssaying.net. And you can scroll down and find Paulina's, just click on 23 or whatever, find the episode and click on there and it'll take you to her stuff. So we have a back and forth. You'll always be able to find each other through our websites. I also am on like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, which my X account kind of stinks, but I am on all of those things and you can learn a little bit about me and you can maybe Google me because I'm maybe getting out there where I have enough stuff where you can Google me and find me out that way. I mean, I'm hoping maybe you should Google me and then tell me if there's something you see. Because I know me, I think my search engine says all kinds of stuff because I am myself. And so I'm probably Googling myself with stuff that I already know that's on my search engine, but I'd be curious to see if anybody else Googles me. I don't know. Yeah. Is that a thing? Is that rude? Is that narcissistic? I'm just curious.
No, but I think when we're in the business, in this digital space, it is good and important to understand what part of the real estate we have, how much real estate we have online among the noise. That was before Google. That was probably before Google. So no worries. Or maybe your guardian angel took care of that too.
I'm just saying, I do have a guardian angel.
Well, thank you, Jess. And to you, the listeners, I want to just chat with you. If you've been waiting for the perfect moment to start again, this is it. Jess reminded us that life isn't always polished and success isn't always linear, but small towns can raise big dreamers. Setbacks can become stepping stones, and starting over doesn't mean starting from scratch. It means starting from experience. So if you're facing a tough decision, a fresh start, or just wrestling with your own self-doubt, here's a reminder. The only thing standing in your way is you. And that's the good news because you can move. Just start small, be honest, keep showing up because that's how we live victoriously. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Small Victories podcast. And until we meet again, be blessed. Come into me, show me what I need to see.